York, Buffalo, and Cleveland. So Erie is a location that may have a heavy draw for that traffic. Plus our bus services, you're going to see your public transportation go more and more to the EV type. And I just, if we could just get this meeting together, we'll do it quietly. I mean, it's not going to be a big deal. Just a few principles to say, what should we be looking for? Take what David has gotten, what PennDOT has gotten, and some of the others, and some of the electric companies. I think we have a real good basis to go from there.
Does anybody in this group have a relationship with anybody in an engineering state position at First Energy?
Work together, yeah.
Yeah,
Who?
I said, we've worked with them with their engineering.
Okay.
same.
Because that's where I'm at this point is looking for the right, we need a champion inside First Energy.
Is this just a supply study or is this comprehensive, including potential consumption?
So what they're gonna do is they're gonna model out for me, if I want to put 5 charging stations, this is what it would look like. If I want to put 25 charging stations, this is what it would look like. We gotta figure that, at least 10 years from now, everybody's gonna be driving electric cars or hydrogen cars, period, and how are they gonna do it, and what's gonna happen with the car dealers in the area? If like GM stops making internal combustion engines and selling them in a few years, if we don't have the infrastructure for people to be able to buy these cars and not just charge them at home, but charge them while they're at work. So we have to start thinking about, what's the public infrastructure going to look like down the road? And I like to take first steps first, and knowing what the situation is under the ground and behind our walls and the capacities and the potential capacities will help us determine what our best course is.
It's just small steps.
Yeah, I mean, I only put in for that because that's all the math I can handle. But if we wanted, if down the road we want to look at something larger, this might get this little study that could get done in a very short period of time after July. It might give us a sense of which way we want to go or how.
So I guess, Dave, what are you proposing? Are you proposing that we table this?
I'd like to work with Emily and Dave on putting together this. It's just a small meeting with certain principles to get a baseline. In other words, if you build a wall, you need a good foundation. And this would just be a foundational meeting saying, these are going to be the challenges. These are going to be, what we need to address, not all at one time. I mean, right now, there's only one bite out of the apple with the bus company. But I think at this point, we need to look at a little bit broader picture to put ourselves in position in the future, because as I said, I don't want you to lose that point of the importance of Erie in the whole pivot.
Plus, the money's available for the next 4
Yeah.
or 5 years.
Yeah, and we need to capitalize on that.
So this group has to approve this in order for it to go to the next step. So I would ask that we approve this so that it goes to the next step, that notwithstanding the fact that we're going to have these deeper conversations and hopefully get a wider view of the whole thing down the road.
Well, I would support David, if you want to put the motion on the floor today. I just feel that we need to take steps to progress within our own group.
So Emily, let me ask you, so they're requesting, the total project is 30,000, but they're requesting 27,000 of the UPWP funds, correct? Is there 80,000 total available, or that includes the match?
That includes the match.
Okay.
So there are more funds available.
Like 73,000.
Yes. So this could be expanded
Yeah.
if there are other interested parties, maybe the city or Mill Creek would
Right.
be interested in something like this.
I guess my question would be, if this went forward today, there's still a pot of money that if, Dave's proposal got other interested parties in, then there could be an additional study or like you said, this could be expanded.
Yes.
Before the
Was that-
town meeting, whenever next week.
Yeah, I will say this because this is the TAC. that it isn't an official award until the coordinating committee votes on the 21st of June. So
I guess my thought though is if we delay our recommendation until our next meeting, then that's,
Well,
two more coordinating committee.
we'll have
meetings.
this meeting in place before that next meeting.
Then, my suggestion would be that we vote for this to go forward and then potentially before the coordinating committee, maybe it could come back as an expanded proposal.
Yeah.
That sound reasonable?
Can I say something?
Please.
I'm not necessarily against your study. But this whole thing is volatile. If by chance the Republicans get in next time, the pipeline's gonna open up. And the pressure's gonna go off with the electric cars.
They're putting,
They got no
they're
place to
putting a
put-
lot of money
place to
to
put
build
the
electric
batteries.
car factories right now.
They got no place to put the batteries. They're having trouble. It's gonna be like our nuclear waste. We're gonna rely on China even more than what we do now, because all the batteries are coming from China. A lot of people are gonna be like the Budweiser thing. They're gonna quit buying electric cars just for politics. So I'm not against what you're trying to do, because I was a lineman for like 32 years. I know the grid's very shaky. But I don't know that we're gonna be going that fast.
Well, as I said, I don't want to be dramatic about it, but the meetings that I attended a few years ago in the governor's office, that was even before the demand is even higher today. We are in trouble, and we're not going to be able to build our way out of it because solar and wind is not going to take up the slack. And the gas powered electric generating, the fallacy here is when you drive an electric car, you're burning carbon. I mean, I love this. I mean, people talk about, oh, I'm not putting any carbon. The carbon is only somewhere else. It's not on the road. So, I mean, I drive a hybrid and I get 60 miles a gallon. I love it. But I wouldn't have an EV because I don't want to stop for an hour somewhere traveling. So your point is very good on the politics, but this is beyond politics. This is something that no matter what we do, we are going to have a major electrical problem here in this country as far as generation is concerned. California right now will be saved because of the floods. All the precipitation this year because the dams will come back up again. But then again, they will go down. So I don't want to, there are times when you have to step out and look into the future and vision. And I looked at this when Emily and I first started. Erie is a key positioned community on this whole corridor and a high traffic corridor. So not only residential demands, because we're all using a lot more electricity at home than we used 20 years ago, but also in business demand. Look at your cities at night, how bright they are. We're saving energy with LEDs, but again, the demand. And I think this is a great first step to start that process, because it's not going to be solved overnight. Your points are great. I mean, I do believe, but I think the horse is out of the barn.
I'm not against the study again, okay, because there's gonna be other people in Erie that'll be able to, that study I'm sure would be available to, where they can make business decisions. So I'm not against the study, it's just, the study needs to be done now. That is the electric car. You know what I'm saying?
Right, no, I mean, there's still a lot of questions. That's one of the reasons why we're not we're not rushing to do electric buses. The technology is not there from our perspective, especially the battery technology, with our weather and everything. But that, I have to assume that that's gonna change, I mean, one thing that's for sure is that everything's gonna change.
One more question on my part concerning the study. Time frame, calendar, beginning, ending.
My understanding is that if the money becomes available in the new fiscal year after July 1st, that the study will take, a couple of months at most.
And that's for this first request.
That's for this the piece that I just put forward. if that changes, right, if we wind up looking for a wider view, we'd have to look at it because a wider view is gonna cost more. Makes a larger match. I'll need to develop some partners, to do that. But,
Tim,
I'm not against the study either, but one of my concerns is when it comes for bigger asks, like the on-road rebate program that we're interested in to get newer diesel engines much more efficient, replacing our current fleet, is that going to go away? Gearing towards, EV, and you're not gonna have an electric plow truck. That's not happening, and that's my responsibility to my residents is to have efficient running diesel. And so that's my concern is, when is the money, the real pipeline going to be shut off to that type of funding? And it all going, for lack of better words, green, and that concerns me, because, there are some vehicles that are not going to be capable of doing what we need to have done on a local level, so. But am I against it? Yours, absolutely not, so I'm just voicing an opinion.
I think Tim makes a great point. I just want to say, Cummins Engine in Jamestown, I don't know if you're aware, it's one of the largest plants in the region. They drive a tremendous amount of economic dollars into this whole region. Corey, we have several companies that feed into Cummins and others in Erie, et cetera. So, and they're very aggressive, one of the most aggressive companies in the country to do this technology. So I think Ken makes a great point. I think in the end, we have to not listen to the noise, but look at all the different developing industries. A few years ago, the compressed gas. Yeah, it's a big thing, and it makes sense, and a lot of trucks have gone to that, but it hasn't been universal. So I think that's going to be the same with the electric, so, but that's a good point, Tim.
just to let, just to do a commercial, if we decide to switch over to CNG vehicles, we've got a public CNG charging station if you want to use any time.
Well, I guess, would anybody be willing to make,
Sorry, Matt, can you hear me okay? It's Brian
Yeah,
McNulty.
we got you, Brian. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to mention, to be sure that everybody knows, there is, of course, there was funds set aside for this, federal funds that PennDOT is working on right now. Our NEVI plan, our National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure program. So there was just a, closing on May 5th for applicants for some of those funds, but that'll be a recurring thing over the coming years. So I think this study is consistent with that. We are focusing on interstates first. So in particular, I-79 and I-80 in our area are high priorities. So I think that the timing of this is probably good, maybe for future opportunities. The match is 20%. It doesn't mean that the MPO or EMPTA or anybody needs to necessarily pursue the outcome of this study, but there will be other funds available for projects in the future. And we can get together with whoever's meeting to discuss it, to share the details of that, what we know about it. I don't know all the details, but we can be part of that conversation that Mr. Mitchell mentioned.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks.
I guess I would entertain a motion then to recommend approval of the study to the coordinating committee.
Make such a motion.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have any discussion before we do? All right, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed?
No.
Was that a no vote? Oh, all right. Okay. All right, well, thank you. Motion carries. Emily, did you want to address then the remaining funds in light of this, or?
Well, in light of this conversation, I think leaving the funds unassigned at the moment, given these conversations that may expand the study and require more funding, would be pertinent at this point, unless anyone else would like to advocate for another use of the remaining UPWP funds.
Anybody at this time? Okay, then we
Okay.
can continue to hold them over. Next on the agenda would be a local USD committee report and recommendations. Leanne?
Okay, our local use fee committee met on April 12th. We discussed the construction funding of the Parkway Avenue Bridge. We are recommending to allocate $1,751,173 to the construction of Avenue Bridge. Jason is here to give a little bit more information.
Good morning, everyone. Just a little, I just want for the group, in case there's a few people that haven't been here for the whole history of this, I'll just do a quick recap of the Cockrell Bridge for the group. The former Cockrell Bridge was a concrete arch. It was down as you're heading down towards the yacht club, in case nobody's ever seen it in the city. It was demolished due to structural concerns in October of 2021. Then following that, the city selected a consultant, Trans Systems, to perform the engineering on a replacement bridge. And the MPO funded $585,000 for the engineering design of the replacement bridge. And then recently we had a public meeting at the city in February, and the consultant presented 3 bridge alternatives to the public and to us, and the cost range from 2.1 million. That was for a basic multi-girder bridge. We had a conspan arch at 2.5 million, and then we had an open spandrel arch bridge at 3.1. So the city did select the most economical, lowest cost option, which is the multi-girder, the basic highway type style bridge for 2.1 million. And then as Leanne mentioned, the local use fee committee met in April, and I think we were earmarked at 1.1 prior.
Yes.
And
that was the original
so,
cost estimate.
due to the cost here, again, of the lowest one of 2.1, that group did I guess vote or recommend to the funding at the 1.7, which gets us within 300 and some thousand dollars of the cost of the new bridge. Looking forward, we do have a public meeting number 2 that we anticipate to have in October of this year. And then following that, it is really, I think, ready to move directly into bidding and hopefully construction and breaking ground in the spring of 24. So any questions at all on the Cockrell Bridge? And I can certainly be happy to answer those. Anybody has anything?
Doesn't seem like it.
So we're also recommending to use 2024 TIP funds for waterproof membrane for a bundle of 6 bridges. So we have the 6 bridges are Zimmerly Road Bridge, Gary's Road Bridge, and Evans Road Bridge in Mill Creek Township. We have Hannah Hall Bridge in Venango Township, Old Lake Road Bridge in Springfield Township, and Falls Road Bridge in Franklin Township. So we're trying to bundle those to get the best cost. And that funding was $518,960. So we're recommending.
Yes, and if anyone was at at that subcommittee meeting, there was actually another bridge that was on there in Amity Township, but Amity declined to be part of this bundle. Unfortunately, so their bridge will go without a waterproof membrane.
So I guess we need recommendations from us to the coordinating committee for
Yes.
each of these items. Should we do them individually?
Yes,
Okay.
let's do them. individually.
So first would be our recommendation to the coordinating committee to approve $1,751,173 for the construction of the Cockpit Avenue Bridge. Do I have a motion to recommend that? Thank you. Do we have a second? Any discussion on the Cockpit Avenue Bridge? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next would be to recommend the bundle of 6 bridges that need waterproof membranes for a total of $518,960 in 2024 TIP funds. Do I have a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that bundle of bridges?
Would you be proposing that with a 5% local match from each municipality, or would we be looking at funding it 100%?
Well, I will say, all of the municipalities that responded said they were willing to put in 5%. And that is what we asked with the Union LaBeouf Road Bridge as well. So would someone like to make that motion to request 5% local match for these bridges?
Yes. I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, so the recommendation is to approve the 6 bridges with 5% local match.
What kind of match approximately are they looking at? What's the 5% represent?
5% of the total cost.
I mean, for what, for each township?
25 grand.
Yeah, I think Mill Creek, yeah, Mill Creek's for our 3 bridges was in the neighborhood of 15,000.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, because these are just the membrane, they're not replacements. None of the bridges were over $100,000 each. So they were more like a $60,000 total project. So, just a few $1,000s for the 5% match.
Any
And
other?
Sorry, just at the next meeting, we'll actually have a fiscal constraint chart to show all of that. Sorry, just, waiting for some of the municipalities to respond, and as you know, one declined, so things shifted around a bit since the meeting, but we will have a fiscal constraint chart, and the coordinating committee would have to vote on that fiscal constraint chart at the next meeting.
PennDOT will be designing said membranes projects, that we do the design work for all 6 structures. And we'd be entering into, just so everybody knows, a reimbursement agreement with each municipality for their section, but then we would let them as one contract. So we would have an individual agreement where we are going to be doing the design and overseeing the contract on behalf of the municipalities, but we'd be looking at doing it as one project. So just in case anybody had any questions.
Thank you, Courtney. Any other discussion on this? Then I will call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to other business. The first item there is the project newsletter with Mark Nicholson, if he's, I think he's with us.
Good morning, everybody. I'm attending virtually. Just a couple of projects on the newsletter, and then I have a few that I'm going to provide in addition that on there, particularly on our local bridge program. First and foremost, the Central Bayfront project. There's been a lot of activity in recent weeks with finalizing the peer review that's being done by a consultant There's been a lot of discussion and emails here in the last couple of weeks, going through final review comments. And the hope is to have that wrapped up here very soon. We're still shooting for the late June let date. So we got a busy couple of days ahead of us, but we're hoping to have this wrapped up here very soon. As far as the Bayfront at 6th Street intersection, that project, we're finalizing the traffic signal plans right now based on some comments that we received from the city. And we're still targeting a August let on that project. We're still working on a railroad agreement, but that should not hold up us being able to let the project in August. We may have to hold on the notice to proceed to the contractor. But even if that were to happen, there shouldn't be any delays to the project, as construction was planning on starting in the spring of 2024 regardless. So shouldn't be any delays there. The 531 project, Depot Road, we're working through some changes to our right-of-way plan due to some utility easements that changed. So we're working through those changes now. Also working on some lighting and some of the work at the interchange. All of that is just proceeding through the final design process. We're hopeful to still make the let in November this year, but that'll depend on how smoothly we get through the right-of-way updates and that acquisition process. But we feel pretty confident that we'll be able to make it by the end of the year. And again, even if we do run into a slight delay there, construction's not expected to start until spring of next year anyway. So those are the three projects that we had on the newsletter. I did want to offer up a couple updates on our local bridge projects. The Niemeyer Road in Waterford Township has been out for advertisement and is scheduled to let tomorrow. So those bids should be coming in. So we're pretty excited about that. And also we have the 3 bridges on Old 99, Old Route 99, that we've had a public plans display online for the last couple of weeks. And we're scheduled to have an in-person meeting with the township next Monday, the 15th. That's everything that I had to provide on the updates. Does anybody have any questions?
Mark, is that the meeting for the 3 bridges? Is that open to the public or just the municipality?
I believe that's a public meeting that's being conducted at the township meeting.
Okay, okay. Oh, okay, okay. So the private meeting's done, the public meeting, so everyone here is welcome to attend for those 3 bridges in McCain Township. They are the ones that are being funded with that $2 million bonus we received for enacting the local use fee and using it on local bridges. So these are directly tied to those bridges, but they're not using any of the local use fee. So it's exciting that they're moving forward finally. So it's a good thing.
Hey, Matt, if there aren't other questions for Mark, I'd like to add a few more project updates, if that's okay, just 2 more items.
Yeah, please do. Oh, hang on. We do have one question.
Brian had a question. Mark, Tim from Harbor Creek, Depot Road. It just, now we're going to November as a possible let date. I just see it falling through again to 2024. And then, we lose the spring and summer construction. It just is there a way to get a hard date on, moving this forward? We're coming up on 10 years.
Yeah, the best I can do, Tim, is dig into it a little bit further on the status of the right-of-way changes and try to get you a better commitment on that. I know just talking with Steve this morning, it sounded like they're still trying to get November, but I can have some more conversations and follow up with you later, if that's okay with you. I understand the concern though, and the delays that have happened, and we're gonna do our best to make sure we get it out on time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mark? Okay, Brian, the floor is yours then, if you'd like.
Okay, thanks, Matt. I just wanted to mention two project updates. I-90, we did do a press release on this one, but Beckman Road over I-90, and I believe it's in Girard Township. I hope I got that right. But of course, we did a public meeting in December to discuss that bridge. Similar to other recent projects, we looked at a few different alternatives, including permanent removal of the bridge, and that's what we presented sort of as what was preferred at the time back in December of 2022. We did look at several different, I guess I'd say after that meeting, we sharpened our pencils and looked at the other alternatives a little more closely. Some of the things that were considered were lowering I-90 main line, because the existing bridge is really not in terrible condition, but it is too low. It's at about 14 feet over the interstate on the westbound lanes. When we build a new bridge over an interstate, we build it at 16'6". So it did have a history of some collision damage for that westbound traffic. Not as many impacts as we had seen on some of those other bridges out that way that had been hit mostly by eastbound traffic coming out of Ohio, for some of those bridges that were just built back in the 50s and 60s at a time when we didn't see as high of vehicles as we do today. So long story short, we did make the decision to keep the Beckman Road Bridge, meaning we're going to replace it as part of the I-90 reconstruction. There were a lot of different influences or facets, I'd say, to making that decision. It wasn't just cost, it wasn't just safety, but we were starting to look into what we might do to mitigate the removal of that bridge and the costs of that type of work, which might be extending roads, improving local roads in the area, that type of thing. Those costs always seem to grow larger than anticipated when you take a first swing at an estimate. So ultimately, that's what we're going to do, is replace Beckman, and we're excited about it. We know the folks in that area are excited about that decision too. And then the other project is the Sassafras pedestrian bridge. So that pedestrian bridge was born out of the Bayfront Parkway project. As everybody might remember, as we were working through that project, the Bayfront Convention Center Authority generously offered to maintain a bridge if we were to build one in that location. And we were just starting the preliminary discussions of how that bridge might tie into a building that they have planned, a market house type building on the north side of the parkway, very close to where the roundabout will be at the Convention Center Drive at Sassafras Street Extension. The bottom line, so we did apply for federal funding. It was through the Reconnecting Communities, I believe it was a federal grant opportunity. And I think the amount we were asking for, if my memory is correct, was $5 million. I'm not sure if Courtney Lyle remembers the exact amount. Do you know, Courtney, was it 5 we were asking for? Do you remember?
I think it was 10. I think the minimum or the project cost was 10, and then we were applying for the 80% of that.
Gotcha. Right. Yep. So that we learned recently in the last couple months that we were not successful. We did request a debrief for that, which is something you can do if you apply for federal funds like that and don't get them. You can have a debrief, which is what we had done in past Bayfront Parkway projects when we had a couple of unsuccessful attempts before finally getting the build grant. So that's what we're doing here too. We're going to have that debrief. I believe it's actually scheduled tomorrow with us, the PennDOT team who applied for that, just to hear what we could do better next time, what ultimately made the difference, any tips like that. So it's useful information. At this time, because of those funds and because of further conversations that we had with the convention center, it's really what we were hoping was to tie into the building with the bridge that we were proposing. And as their plans came to finalization, and as we were looking at, really the details of the elevations, the grades and things, it just wasn't going to work to connect to their building. So they've been great partners every step of the way, but it was too much to connect, which would have left us with the decision of whether to build an elevator, right next to their or very close to their building, which is not preferred to us. And that leaves us with building a ramp that would wind down on that property. Long story short, we're backing away from that, and we're asking the consultant who's been working on the design of that project to take a broader look at pedestrian connectivity across the Bayfront on the west side. So that was sort of some of what we heard during the Bayfront Parkway public outreach, was when we gave folks maps of, where they would like to connect to and from sort of across the parkway. And it was broader maybe than just a simple pedestrian bridge at Sassafras. So just wanted the team to know that's the plan. We're meeting with the consultant soon to discuss that. And the next steps will be some additional public outreach where that consultant who's working on design will have some additional events in the city local to that area to try to figure out what some other options might be aside from just a bridge at that location. So does anybody have any questions on the committee for me on either of those? Thanks, Matt, for the time. Appreciate it.
All right, of course, Brian. Thank you for the update. All right, then I guess moving on, next would be federal updates. If we have Renee Bishop or Abby Lowe with us. Nothing, doesn't
Be on there.
Yep. I don't hear them, so I'll just assume that they're not available today. All right, thanks. Next would be PennDOT Central Office updates with Brandon Leach.
All right. Thanks again, Matt. So just a few things to highlight today. And yeah, not a lot to report on in terms of the PennDOT side. Just more of a for your information. Michael Carroll, who was appointed the acting secretary for PennDOT for Department of Transportation in Pennsylvania, was announced on May 3rd that the Pennsylvania State Senate confirmed him as the official department secretary. And he's had a wealth of transportation experience in the past, being part of the PA House of Representatives in 2006, served as Democratic chair for the House Transportation Committee from 2018 to 22. Also a member of the State Transportation Commission over the last few years. So definitely a welcomed addition, an official addition to the PennDOT team there. I wanted to highlight with the recent closing of the 12-year program public outreach that was conducted statewide, just a few highlights from that. With the closing of that, the goal of 10,000 survey responses was surpassed statewide and has received, as of the posting of this, just over 10,500 responses, which was the highest ever for this particular public comment period. So thank you for anyone who did complete the survey that's on this call today or in this meeting. We also had, in addition, over 3,000 people attend the 2023 online public forum that was Wednesday, April 12th. For those of you that could not attend, there is a recording of the forum as well as a transcript copy that will be made available soon on the Talk PA Transportation website. And in addition, the public comment period, even though it's closed, the transportation survey will remain open until September 30th. If you or someone you know hasn't taken it yet, we encourage you to take that. And that's all I had to report on. So I'll take any questions if anyone has.
Any questions for Brandon? All right, well, thank you very much, Brandon. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Next, I'll turn it over to Emily to go over 2023 traffic count locations.
Yes, I wanted to briefly mention to this group that PennDOT is conducting traffic counts on local roads in a lot of communities, and this is done through central office. So this is just for reporting purposes. It's not for a specific study, but I know some of these counters have been popping up on a lot of local roads, leading to a lot of questions. So if anyone has questions about traffic counters on local roads, you can reach out to Christopher Brandt at PennDOT, and he can give you some more information about a specific date they're going to be there, or any historical data they would have for those locations. So just wanted to share that with the group, that these are the locations that traffic counts will be taken in. Some of them are very rural residential subdivisions where they haven't been taken before. So just wanted to share that.
All right, thanks. Any questions for Emily? Okay, well, thank you, Emily. Next, we would have hearing of the public. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak at this time?
Yes, I would like to speak. This is Freda Tepper. I was unable to get into my into the Zoom early on, so some of these might have been appropriate during the first portion of public comment. As far as administrative modification number 15, I was curious what it means that you are deobligating funds for Raspberry Street and the signals in Union City. I hope that doesn't mean you're not going to do the signals in Union City, because those are very important. And I hope that the project on US 20 from Chestnut Street West proceeds. We still don't have the accessible pedestrian signals there. I'm concerned about that Erie Parks still has not consulted with the residents of the Baldwin Park neighborhood concerning the pickleball project that they're doing, how much clearing they're going to be doing for parking. When I say neighborhood, I mean the neighborhood. I don't just mean the immediate streets around the park, because we all use the park in this neighborhood. And we were never consulted as to whether we wanted to sacrifice a park for parking. There's going to be vegetation cleared on the west side of the park, and apparently on the east side of the park. And I'm kind of wondering now, with additional pickleball capacity going in on Mill Creek, and so many of the people who come and use that park don't even live in the city, are we over capacitating pickleball in the city? Also, Emily mentioned moving projects forward for funding. I've brought up in the past the need to increase the number of accessible pedestrian signals, the need to upgrade. Erie has a lot of signals that don't even have head buttons, much less accessible pedestrian signals, and they should be in a project to be funded with infrastructure funds or whatever. And I've also brought up several times the betterment projects, and I was told that because of the size of this community, that Erie itself can't submit projects for the infrastructure and inflation reduction for projects of this kind, like the betterment projects, that it would have to be part of a statewide project. So, and there have been a number of processes in the city where people identified sidewalks that they wanted to have around parks, a variety of things, West 21st Street, Pittsburgh Avenue. What can the state or the MPO do to help the city and other jurisdictions to get some of these projects packaged so they can be part of a statewide request? for funding from the infrastructure. With the Central Bayfront Parkway project, apparently there's about 10 or 12 parking spaces at the library that are going to be lost. I don't think the public really knew that this was going to happen early on. And I wondered, what is the plan to replace? Sometimes you can't even get a parking space now at the library. What is going to be the plan to replace these lost spots? I heard the discussion about the Sassafras Bridge, and I heard something about the local community being consulted. All of us are concerned with pedestrian access to the Central Bay, to the Bayfront. All of us use that area. All of us like to attend the 8th grade concerts and whatever's going on. Please do not limit consulting about pedestrian access to the Bayfront to just people in that neighborhood. But I think that there should be more information about that. And lastly, again, in the Baldwin Park neighborhood, Shaper Street is the west end of the Baldwin Park neighborhood, and it's immediately adjacent to Highway 79. Shaper Street between 24th and 25th Street is part of a recent effort by PennDOT to remove all vegetation along the would you call that the right of way, the vegetated area on the side of the highway. So right now, the people who live down there have absolutely no sound, visual, wind, or snow buffer because PennDOT removed all the vegetation. And I don't understand why this is not the only place this is happening, but why is PennDOT doing this? Thank you.
Thank you, Freda. Do we have any other members of the public that would wish to speak at this time?
Yeah,
Mr.
just
Mitchell?
for an update, there's been a lot of, I've come on the land bank and through the MPO to the 8th Street project, 18th Peninsula. What I'm concerned about is, you know, the traffic patterns. You know, I know you guys are working really hard on it. It's a great project as far as scope and the future. But, you know, that in the summer, that is one of the highest traffic areas in the region at certain points. So are we, and Emily is opening up for new projects, et cetera. Do we have anything in the queue that's going to work on that or push that forward to address the future concerns?
So I know, you know, we have been cooperating with PennDOT on a betterment project that's going to happen on 832. I think that's 25. It's scheduled. I believe it's still in the engineering phase. Yes.
Yep.
So definitely, you know, I can't speak for PennDOT, but as you know, as we move forward, we'd like to continue to have those conversations with them about, you know, then that would include signalization and everything along that corridor.
Good, just wanted an update. Yeah.
Any other comments from the public?
Well, really quick, I just following up on Freda's comment, the deobligating of Union City funds, the signal project is complete, right? That's done, and these are just extra funds.
Yeah, when we de-op funds, it just means that they were not needed to complete the project.
Okay.
It was not, if you see something that we were removing something in there as the reason why the funds were good. When a project is over, or a project is let, and we use the funds, then that's when we use those de-ops or de-op.
Is that the Union City project?
It's a Union City signal project, not the Union City project that's going on currently.
Okay, can you give us a background on those two real brief?
Yeah, so the Union City project, or the Union City signal project was a project that just went through and updated some of the signals at, I think, the railroad crossings.
Right, the main intersection.
That project, I believe, is finished. It is done through construction, like Emily has stated, and we've moved on. Now we have a project that is looking at paving 6. Well, I think, I don't know, if part of 8 might be getting paved right through there or not, but they're doing paving in through there. That project was just let and construction is starting. And some work is happening as I drove through up today. Work is happening. There's also high school students sweeping sidewalks, so avoid downtown Union City, but the heavy work will be starting, I think, next week. I read in the press release.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Courtney. All right, if we don't have anything else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Thank you. Second, all in favor? Okay, we are adjourned. The next MPO meeting will be the coordinating committee meeting on June 21st. Thank you, everybody.
I know Tim said it first, I missed.
Was it Mark?
Okay.
Maybe?
I think Mark, okay, sorry, I missed.
Sorry, I wasn't
No,
in a rush to get done.
All right, you can stop there.
Are we going to court for park now?
Yeah.
Oh. What about that? What did you say? about the vegetation?
Yeah.
District right.
Got the-
For the-
She wanted, that's the-
It'd be less, it would be the way they said.